In 1984, Gail Stevens, a founder and one of the intellectual giants of the specialty of family medicine, organized a conference in Keystone, Colorado to review the philosophy, purpose, and meaning of family medicine 15 years after the formal founding of the discipline. His original idea gave birth to a series of conferences over the next 30 years that would continue that process. The American Board of Family Medicine Foundation honored the memory of Dr. Stevens by creating the G. Gail Stevens Keystone Conference Series. And in June of 2015, the inaugural event in this series, Keystone 4, was hosted in Keystone, Colorado. This three-day conference brought together family physicians, other primary care health professionals, patients, and community advocates, and continued the structure of an intergenerational conversation that Dr. Stevens employed 30 years earlier at his first Keystone Conference. The four major themes of the conference were history, relationships, place, and time. But the conference's chief purpose was to address the vision and challenges of being a personal physician in the 21st century through a series of questions. This brief excerpt from the conference focuses on the question, how do personal physicians balance the time and effort required to develop meaningful relationships with patients with their personal life?
I increasingly feel like I don't have enough time, and part of that is because being a one-day-a-week doc, my memory and keeping up with things is eroding. But I'm increasingly giving my phone number and increasing time with patients through text, through phone calls, through emails, because that's the only way I can actually give them the time they need and be there, be present when they need me most. Because at the end of every day, I have to ask myself two questions. Is this sacred space for me? Am I still glad that I took this day out of my week? And the second question I have to ask is, could I do this again tomorrow? And as long as those things are balanced, I'm cool. But when I have to say there's no way I could come back and do this tomorrow, then my time's up.
If we take some time each day, it's kind of like just stopping and smelling the roses, but it's really just kind of taking stock in what our lives mean in the present time. And that's helped me personally just appreciate my time with my children, with my wife, with my friends, just time alone and time with patients. And I think that as a field, we are naturally a mindful group of people.
For me, coming home at night, to leave the practice behind, I have to change my clothes in some fashion. I feel a little bit like Mr. Rogers. But I have to make some break with the day. Otherwise, it lingers and it carries on in my mind. Or I have to talk to my wife about what happened. That was particularly important to me. Otherwise, it stays with me. There's always more to be done than can be done. And we have to pick and choose how, our sense of who needs it the most. And part of that who needs it the most is us and our families.
Doctors and healthcare, we talk about time a great deal. And I can't help but wonder if the time conversation is actually signaling another kind of conversation. If the frustration with time is in part really a conversation about a frustration of what things are intruding on this time that you're supposed to have, things that perhaps we feel we can't control, but we probably can find ways to control. And I think that's part of that, why we do what we do and what we do. So if the time is important and it's sacred and we need to have it, and you can make it very meaningful and make it feel expansive, even if it's only 2 minutes long, then I think the challenge we have when we leave here is how do we convey that sense of time when we get to our practice? How do we convey that sense of time to the residents who are learning how to be physicians and to our staff?
I think the issue of guilt is a huge issue. I'm not there for my patients, I'm not there for my family. I can't do all that I want to do. And so I guess my suggestion is work out a schedule and a set of rules for covering that seems fair and reasonable and understandable. And then at the margin, if you can go the extra step by visiting someone in the hospital or by writing a note or by going to the funeral, assuming that you have the time to do that and it doesn't conflict with your daughter's soccer game, those are really critical things to do.
The team is so important for the time of that patient, from the time they call till they're out the door. So I don't know, they know the patients as well as I do. They know who requires more time, they know who requires less time, and we don't always get it right. And I don't always make good choices with my time, but I have home, I have other places. And the time is so important for me to stay mentally and physically healthy, because if I'm not, that few minutes in the exam room is a waste for that patient. If I'm not where I am really with them, then that's a waste for them.
I love the question that we're closing this conference with. How should we spend our time? And I think it's incumbent on us to be thoughtful about this and to actually surface those issues about what it is that's worth devoting our heartbeats to, with respect to healing, with respect to those things that only we can do that make people a little bit healthier, that make the world a little bit better.